Carol's story unfolds as a tale of generosity met with ungratefulness. Living happily with her husband Michael and their son Jacob, Carol cherishes the warmth and support within her small family. Michael, a man of great kindness, not only shares in household duties but also fosters a loving relationship with their son. However, beneath this domestic bliss lies a troubling concern related to Carol's elder brother, Brian, and his wife, Amy. For a decade, Carol has extended financial support to her family, particularly aiming to assist her mother, Samantha, who retired to the family home now occupied by Brian and Amy. Despite the financial aid amounting to $2,100 monthly, Carol's relationship with Brian and Amy grew tense, especially when oversight of the finances shifted to them. Amy's confrontational demands for the money, coupled with a noticeable change in Samantha's demeanor, now often comparing Carol unfavorably to Brian, cast a shadow over Carol's intentions. Carol's efforts to maintain harmony were met with harsh criticism from Amy, who questioned Carol's capability as a mother over missed payment. This treatment, bordering on extortion, prompted Carol to question the nature of her financial support. Amy's disdain for Carol was evident from their first meeting, marked by derogatory remarks and an audacious fashion choice that seemed out of place to Carol. Despite the familial discord, Carol found solace in her husband's understanding, though the prospect of accepting Amy as family remained daunting. The turning point came during a phone confrontation over a supposed slight involving $15,000, leading Carol to a moment of clarity. With resolve, she ended the call, deciding to cease all financial assistance to Brian and Amy. This decision, born from years of unappreciated support, marks Carol's stand against the unwarranted disparagement and manipulation she faced. Amid these trials, Carol's story is a testament to her strength and the value she places on respect and gratitude within familial bonds. Carol found herself pondering the well-being of her mother, Samantha, who resided with Carol's brother Brian and his wife, Amy. Amidst the whirlwind of her daily responsibilities, including her job and caring for her son, Jacob, Carol struggled to maintain direct contact with her mother, leaving her uncertain about Samantha's living conditions. One morning, as Carol prepared for her day, after dropping Jacob at childcare, an unexpected call from her mother interrupted her routine. Samantha's tone, laced with anger, took Carol by surprise as she demanded to know the whereabouts of the monthly financial support. Despite Carol's assurance that she had already sent the funds to Brian's account, Samantha accused her of negligence and ingratitude, threatening to sever ties unless Carol sent an additional $15,000. Confused and hurt by her mother's harsh words, Carol tried to clarify the situation, but her attempts were met with further accusations of irresponsibility. Frustrated and feeling unjustly criticized, Carol ended the call abruptly, vowing to get to the bottom of the misunderstanding. She suspected that Amy might be manipulating the situation, given her previous aggressive behavior and demands for the monthly $2,100. The following month, the cycle repeated with a call from Amy, reminding Carol of the payment deadline. When Carol inquired about the previous month's conflict, Amy dismissed her concerns and urged her to discuss any issues directly with Brian. Heeding this advice, Carol reached out to her brother, hoping for clarity. Brian's response, however, only deepened Carol's shock. He revealed that they had been allocating only a portion of Carol's contributions to their mother, using the remainder for their own expenses. This month, due to additional financial strains, they had diverted the entire amount, leaving nothing for Samantha. This revelation left Carol reeling, realizing that her efforts to support her mother were being exploited by Brian and Amy. Feeling betrayed and helpless, Carol grappled with the reality of her family's dynamics, her trust eroded by the misuse of her financial support. This moment of clarity forced Carol to confront the difficult truth about her brother's actions and the impact on their mother's care, propelling her to reconsider her approach to family and financial assistance. Determined to shed light on the troubling financial situation, Carol decided it was crucial to inform her mother about her brother's admissions. Despite her efforts to explain the situation and prove her financial contributions, her mother remained skeptical, accusing Carol of making excuses and failing to send the money. In a bid to provide undeniable evidence, Carol suggested a video call to show her transaction history, hoping to dispel any doubts. During the video call, Carol presented her bank statement, clearly showing the $15,000 transfer. However, her mother's trust was hard to win. She suggested the document could be falsified, echoing skepticism fueled by stories of digital deception she had encountered in the news. Insistent on seeing the money transferred, her mother ended the conversation abruptly, still unconvinced. Reluctantly, Carol proceeded with another transfer, holding on to hope that this gesture would finally convince her mother of her sincerity. Yet, the situation only escalated. A few days later, an irate call from her mother revealed that the money had once again not reached its intended recipient. Confused and frustrated, Carol reached out to her brother, only to be met with indifference and a refusal to discuss the matter. Carol's patience wore thin after a revealing conversation with her sister-in-law, Amy, who admitted to using the transferred funds for personal indulgence, a designer bag, instead of their intended purpose. Amy's brazen disregard for the family's needs and her demand for an additional $2,100 only added fuel to the fire. Feeling betrayed and angry, Carol resolved to confront the situation head-on. She packed her bags and headed to her parents' home, ready to face her family and address the misuse of her financial support directly. Carol's journey from a supportive sister and daughter to a disillusioned family member highlights the complexities of familial obligations and the impact of trust eroded by selfish actions. Carol's unexpected arrival at her family home caught her brother and sister-in-law off guard. Her mother, hopeful for a resolution, greeted her with the expectation of financial support. Carol, firm in her purpose, sought to verify the transfer of $15,000 by asking to see her brother's bank card. Amy's reluctance and evasive responses only fueled Carol's determination. The confrontation escalated quickly, with Amy deflecting and Carol insisting on transparency. The dispute reached a boiling point when their mother, driven by frustration and perhaps denial, sided with Amy, urging Carol to leave and renouncing her as a daughter. In the heat of the moment, Carol stood her ground, declaring her decision to cease financial support due to the deceit she uncovered. She exposed the truth about the misallocation of her contributions, challenging her family's perception of her brother and Amy. Carol's departure marked a significant turning point. No longer willing to enable their deceit, she resolved to end her financial assistance, regardless of the consequences. Her husband Michael offered comfort and support upon her return, affirming her decision to stop the payments. His reassurance highlighted the essence of Carol's generosity, a voluntary act of goodwill, not an obligation to sustain her adult brother and his wife, or to compensate for their lack of initiative. This realization, supported by Michael's understanding, brought Carol a sense of peace. Acknowledging that her brother and Amy were capable of supporting themselves, she embraced the freedom from an obligation that had long weighed on her. Carol's journey from dutiful family member to an empowered individual underscored the importance of boundaries and the courage to uphold them in the face of manipulation and ungratefulness. For years, Carol had been the backbone of her family, shouldering the financial burdens of her brother and mother's lapses. It was a role she had unwittingly accepted, never fully questioning why the responsibility fell so heavily on her shoulders. Her husband, Michael, had observed this dynamic with a mix of curiosity and concern. He recognized the strain it placed on Carol, but refrained from intervening, believing it was her choice to make. However, the moment Carol decided to prioritize their immediate family, herself, Michael, and their son Jacob, Michael expressed his full support. He reassured her that while it was noble to offer assistance in times of crisis, it was not her duty to sustain her brother and mother's daily lives. This affirmation from Michael was the catalyst Carol needed to feel liberated from her self-imposed obligation. In an unexpected twist, Carol's resolution was put to the test when her brother and his wife, Amy, reached out, demanding the usual financial support mid-month. Carol's response was firm. She had already declared her intentions to cease the monthly payments, emphasizing that they had each other for support. The conversation ended with Carol reaffirming her stance and disconnecting. The situation escalated when Amy confronted Carol outside her home, aggressively demanding the $15,000 for her personal desires, citing her care for their mother as justification. Carol, bewildered by Amy's audacity, reiterated that their financial relationship was over and that Amy should not return. Amy's outburst attracted attention, leading to her removal by the police, an intervention Carol hadn't anticipated, but which underscored the severity of the situation. Shaken, Carol reached out to her brother, seeking an explanation for Amy's actions and to reinforce her decision to sever financial ties. She stressed the negative impact their demands had on her family, particularly on her son, and expressed a desire to disconnect from the cycle of dependency and conflict. Carol's brother's silence following her assertive stance signified a turning point, marking the end of Carol's financial support and the beginning of a new chapter focused on her immediate family's well-being and happiness. Carol had reached her limit with her family's financial demands when her brother, in a desperate plea, admitted that both he and Amy worked part-time and relied heavily on their mother's modest pension, claiming they couldn't manage without Carol's $15,000 contributions. Despite acknowledging Amy's lavish spending, he insisted they needed the full amount to cover their living expenses. Carol, unmoved by his justification, pointed out their minimal support to their mother and firmly ended the conversation, vowing to herself to cut off all communication with them. In the following months, Carol remained steadfast in her decision, ignoring persistent attempts from her brother and the sporadic outreach from Amy, who had been notably less present at Carol's doorstep since her encounter with the police. The situation took a turn when Carol received a call from her mother, who revealed she had been neglected financially by Brian and Amy, receiving neither support from them nor the promised portion of Carol's contributions. Her mother's plea was tinged with regret and despair over her current predicament and the treatment she received from her son and daughter-in-law, despite her mother's vulnerable state. Carol's sympathy was constrained by past betrayals and the harsh ultimatum she had been given. She had independently navigated her way through college and even shouldered her brother's student loans, a responsibility that was not hers to bear. Carol suggested her mother take a firm stance and evict Brian and Amy, emphasizing that they were capable adults who should fend for themselves. Following Carol's advice, her mother made the difficult decision to evict them, leading to their relocation to an older apartment. This decision created a distance between Carol and her mother, marked by a lingering awkwardness and reduced contact. When her brother later reached out, confessing to debt incurred by Amy's spending habits, Carol chose to maintain her distance, focusing instead on the well-being of her own immediate family. This resolution marked a new chapter for Carol, one where she prioritized her peace and the stability of her life with her husband and son over the endless cycle of financial and emotional drain posed by her brother and his wife. Her story underscores the importance of setting boundaries and the courage to uphold them, even when faced with difficult family dynamics.